Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. Here, this is the spot where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Welcome home, Brains. There's only one requirement to hang out on the edge, is that you open your big brain and close your small mind. Did you bring your thinking caps? It's time to put them on, because the conversation starts now. You here on the edge. Welcome to On the Edge. This is the place where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Today we are with Tamara Oswald. We're going to talk about happiness. I got some questions for her. How people get all caught up in this happiness Svengali. Now, this woman has a lot of experience. She is a life mastery coach and a former special education teacher. I love teachers, and it takes a special kind of person to work with children that have different abilities. I hate to say disabilities because they're different abilities than we have right here.
We're
going to talk about that. We're going to talk about her book and a whole lot more. Let's welcome her to the show. How are you, Tamara?
Great. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited too. To have you. Tell my brains how you show up in the world.
How I show up in the world. Right before we got on, I was reading you this prayer, and how I like to show up is a very loving, kind, compassionate person who's also confident and brave. Brazen, yes, too.
You gotta be it. You gotta take charge.
And I love being able to help people wherever I go. I have this cute little cup that says "Leave a sparkle wherever you go," and I love to put a smile on people's face and do that. So that's how I like to show up in the world.
Well, it's easy to put a smile on your face, but sometimes people don't appreciate, value, or respect that.
Right.
It's like when you pay someone a compliment, and they just dismiss it, or they don't say thank you. But we have to still forge ahead. We can't let the response dictate our actions. Would you agree?
I absolutely 100% agree. Now, there's a lot of people that don't understand that part of it because of what's going on in themselves. They have these, most of us are raised with these beliefs that are, to say the least, not very inspiring. Sit down, be quiet. You're not allowed to talk right now. If they want to show their creativity or things like that, there's a lot of parents that say, oh yeah, whatever, those kinds of things. When children get those at such a young age, they stick with them. And it's fascinating to see the difference between children that have parents that speak life into them and the children that have parents that speak, I like to say, death into them. Because when you shut them down and you tell them that they're not good enough, they hold on to that. They don't mean to, but it's a subconscious programming that just keeps playing until they catch it as an adult.
Well, and sometimes they don't ever catch it, and it turns into other things. It turns into I'm not worthy. It turns into people pleasing. It turns into the imposter syndrome. It turns detrimental. They start self-medicating, or they start being mean to other people, because they want to be heard. And a lot of times they don't mean to have this destructive behavior, but by them overemphasizing, getting loud, cursing, whatever, they get the attention that they need. And so many people are getting bad press, bad attention. How do we turn that around? How do we find and start seeking this thing called happiness?
Well, in the Bible it says the power is in the tongue. Life and death is in the tongue.
That's right.
What we are speaking is what we are interpreting. That's what we're taking in. What we are hearing is what we're taking in. So to be careful about, and and I don't mean like careful as in like get rid of everything, but limit yourself to like negative news, what we call seeing.
Girl,
Like,
I don't. I hear what you're saying. And you know what's going on in the world right now. Uh, I turn it off. I turn it on to make sure that I'm not headed in harm's way when I go out to the grocery store. Other than that, I turn it off because the media ingrains it in you. My mother used to say, "Oh, don't turn the channel because that sweet wolf blitzer is coming on, and it's breaking news." I said, "Mama, this is the news that broke at 8, 9, 10:30. It's the same news. It's 3 o'clock now." No, it's breaking news. It's a psychological neurolinguistic programming and imprinting that they just keep ingraining in it, and it drains us.
you remind me of 9/11 when 9/11 happened, and they kept showing the same planes come, the same video of the same plane going into the towers, and the kids, they thought that it was happening over and over and over again, and didn't realize it at the time. But that kind of visualization, we take things in and don't even realize it. The kids didn't realize that that was just the same two planes over and over again. So they thought it was over and over and over again, and it caused a lot of stress. Right now, we have all this, they want to get, and I know that these news channels want to get the viewing and things like that, and they have to get their numbers up, right? However they do it. We don't have control over that. What we have control over is our own selves, what we decide to put into our minds. So if we go into a situation like if you go out to dinner and the news is on, you can choose to watch it or you can choose to walk away. You don't have to. So let that stuff go into you.
All right, so you choose positivity and you choose life and you choose love. And both of you and I both share something on our desk, an hourglass.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And it's all about timing. Timing is everything. Every little grain of sand in this speaks volumes into our life. Now, this might be 30 minutes. Is yours 30 minutes as well?
Mine's an hour.
Yours an hour. So mine is 30 minutes. And I look at it and I'm amazed by what happens in that 30 minutes, how I can be influenced, I can be impacted, my emotions can change, I could get good news, I could get bad news. How do we stay in the present in this thing called happiness? How do we stay there?
Well, let me go into a little bit about what happened to me as a child.
Okay.
And then how I shifted that. So as a child, I was raised with an abusive alcoholic, which is in my book, Short, Sweet, and Sacred. And as I was raised with this abusive alcoholic, I learned how to be very careful around him. So I would walk on eggshells, and try to do things to please him. And like you were talking about earlier, you're trying to be a people pleaser and help people all the time. Well, there's a limit to that, to where when it takes your energy away and when it gives you energy. I didn't understand that for a while. When I got into self-development, I read a book years ago, as soon as I turned to an adult. And I remember my husband, I was so excited about it, right? I'm so excited. I'm reading this book. I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to see this book. And my husband's just like, what are you talking about? He's a very logical kind of guy. And I said, we need to paint freedom on the ceiling. I was like, such a cool thing. And he was like, what is wrong with you? Like, I was excited, because this was a whole different way of thinking than how I was raised. When you're raised with all of the negativity and the abuse and the put downs, that sticks with you. So when that book came out, I was hooked. and started reading about all this stuff, how to improve yourself. And that's when I decided I'm going to go to college. So I went to college. And I'm thinking, okay, if I have all of this stuff that's going on inside of me, how do I get rid of it? Right? How do I get rid of all this negativity? So I'm like, all right, the world tells me I need to get an education. That's going to do it. I went to school part time and worked full time and took care of my kids over the years. And when I finally get my about 17 years later, I finally get my education degree, and then I get into the education, and then I was like, you know what, I want to help kids with special needs. So I went ahead and got my master's in special education. And when you get into an environment like that, there's so much politics, and it was very stressful for me at the time. And at that time, my marriage wasn't going very well. My kids were grown. They're leaving the house, and I'm going through all of that, so I had all of this emotion and stuff, and I really didn't learn much how to deal with it during college. So about that time, um, I remember several times where I was like, okay, that's it. I'm not doing this education thing anymore. I'm gonna get kids when they're in preschool, and help them
Primary, yeah, the formative years.
at that younger age, because 0 to 6 are very important ages. So I got opened a daycare, and I was working with the kids in my daycare, and all the parents loved it because the kids were learning, they were adding, they were counting, they were doing all reading letters and sound outs. Anyway, it was a great experience, but it was 12 hours a day and 5 days a week, and I was exhausted. And I was telling my husband about it, and I was like, I need to do something where I can hire people. And then he had his own limited mindset, and he was worried, like, how are you going to do this? And how are you going to do that? Well, that started me doubting myself. And so I didn't go bigger. Anyway, about that time, I was overweight. I was like 180 pounds, and I'm only 5'5". So 180 pounds on a 5'5" body, I was definitely hurting.
Mm.
Get up in the morning and I couldn't move. I'd crawl out of bed, get on the floor and do like the child's pose and yoga and roll over on my back and stretch just so I could stand up. And then, well, I don't know what happened. My marriage was starting to really fall downhill, but I knew that there was just a mindset, like there's a mindset that's going on here. And all I could think of was, I've done everything I can do to change my life to be better. And even though I love what I'm doing, it's not my passion. What is my passion, right? So that morning, this last morning, I was laying on the floor and I was like, Lord, I need help. I need help. And I just called out to him. I'm like, send me somebody that can help me, please. And that day, I don't remember if it was my email or Facebook, I got an ad for life coach. And I was like, well, what is this? Right? What is this about? I didn't I read all the books, but I didn't know what a life coach was. And it sounded good. So I was like, all right, jumped in. Oh my goodness. It changed my life. I was able to take all of those negative thoughts that I gained throughout all those years, figure out, first of all, that they were there, because I didn't know they were subconsciously there. I didn't know that they were running my life, absolutely running my life. And once I found those out and how to I teach the system now where you can go in, find out what it is, and then shift it to your advantage. And when I started doing that, I was able to change my negative thinking into a positive thinking, and not just like surface positive thinking, because
Right.
instantly.
But you know what I'll tell you, like I tell everybody, happiness is like cocaine or heroin or meth. It's a high. And
Mm,
people are always chasing that high. What's the
mhm,
next new shiny object that's going to make me happy? Is it
mhm,
him? Is it her? Is it a car? Is it a purse? Is it a trip? What is it? So many people fail to realize that contentment is happiness. Being in the moment is happiness. Being in the present are conversations that we have rattling around in our brain instead of, like you say, focusing on that life mastery. Even in your darkest times, you can be happy because you can realize that there's a lesson here to be learned. And you have to figure out how you're going to process it and how you're going to utilize it, how you're going to change it, how you're going to implement it, how you're going to pour it into someone else. There's joy. We are all here to go on a journey, and it's not always going to be uphill. We're going to have to, like a boxer, we got to, bob and weave, and sometimes you're going to get knocked down.
mhm.
But when you get back up and you look at yourself in the mirror and you see that you've overcome these hurdles like you did with childhood abuse, you say, look, I am now going to dedicate my life to helping others. Tell us a little bit about your life mastery program as a coach.
So, first of all, I love what you just said.
Thank you.
They
Sincere.
chasing happy. What is happy for a lot of people? They don't even know what it is.
And it's different for everybody.
Exactly. And I was just reading last a couple of nights ago about how there's three different kinds of happiness that people typically go for. There's the happiness of having things, the shiny object. There's happiness of just being focused on a person and just showing them happy. Then there's the happiness of your internal happiness. And when but a lot of so many people have addictive personalities because they're looking for that happy. So
Right.
like they're looking at playing games on their phone all day, TikTok, porn. Like there's these outer happiness things that keep them distracted away from their inner self.
Right.
When you get to the inner self and you find that happiness within yourself, that contentment, that love for yourself, that's when you are truly happy. And then it doesn't matter what goes on in the world because you get to choose how you respond to the world at that time. So most people right now, they're just reacting to what's going on to the world, reacting by how they were taught growing up.
It and how you process it, but it's also the delivery
Yes,
because there are a lot of people that push their anger off on others.
yes,
You don't have to go along to get along. You can
right,
resist that. You can say, this doesn't feel good to me. This doesn't look good to me. This doesn't taste good to me. So I'm not with it. And
yep.
I'm that girl. I will tell people in a minute, I'm not co signing on that nonsense.
Mhm.
But if I'm in, I'm all in. So we have to really kind of find a balance. So through all of your experience, your education, and your teaching, you wrote a book.
Mhm.
Where is that book? I see it back there on the shelf.
Yes, it is called Short, Sweet, and Sacred.
It's called, wait, Short, Sweet, and Sacred?
Hmm.
That is gorgeous. What's inside of that?
This is the third volume, international bestseller, which is
Wow.
nice. There's a compilation of coaches who have explained their story from where they came from to where they're at now, where they found their happiness, what they've gone through. And it's a beautiful read. Beautiful read.
I bet. Why don't you share a little bit of your contribution with my audience? How about that?
Okay. So I wrote this story a couple of years ago, and this was like in a frustration moment. Like, I was getting to the end of it, and I was talking about my childhood, and then I just thought, well, why does this really matter? Does this matter? This life, what I'm doing, what I've been through. And it actually was kind of a healing experience for me. So I'll read kind of a little bit of what I went through, and then explain a little more if you'd like.
Absolutely.
So 6 years old, I find myself being molested by an older man again. I'm disgusted with myself for being in this situation. I do not know how to get away. I feel like I need to do what he wants, or he will do something even worse. 7 years old, I wake up to my mom's upset voice. She's angry and scared because her new husband had just beaten her up so he could have her paycheck. As I walk out of the room, she looks at me through her swelled up black eye with the phone to her ear. She says, "Your aunt will be here soon. Pack your things." We're moving. We move often, so I'm used to it. But this time, I must give away my dogs. But on the other hand, I'm glad I don't have to see that old man again. About 7.5 years old, I walk into my rundown, very dark apartment to see a man sitting on the couch. The coffee table is littered with marijuana, a spoon, syringe, lighter, and a big rubber band. My mom comes in the room to find me looking at it. Andy, her boyfriend, and she watches my eyes gaze back towards the coffee table, then back up to her. She looks at the scene. She walks over to where Andy is sitting and says, "Get that stuff out of my house." I'm 9 years old and Andy is still doing drugs and drinking. He's nice sometimes, and other times he's explosive. His big, bushy, curly hair and ragged beard make him look even scarier. He likes to humiliate me in front of my friends and other adults. 11 years old, we moved to a new apartment. This one has a pool. I complete my chores, and I'm excited to be able to go to the pool with my friends. I love spending time immersed under the water where I can drown out the noise of the world. It's my only peace. Coming up for air in the deep end, I see Andy at the entrance of the pool. He looks angry. Putting his hand up, he motions for me to follow him. I know I must. He's the authority. We walk into the clean house that I'm very proud of, and he points out a napkin which is hidden behind a table. He takes off his belt and he beats me with it. I'm crying because it hurts. And I'm ashamed, so I hide myself in my room. I'm 12 years old and my mom arrives home. I walk into the kitchen to see Andy's first fist clenched back with my mom's hair in his hand. He's ready to punch her in the face, and I scream at him to leave her alone. He turns and he hits me so hard that it knocks me out. At 13, my friends and I are going to church, and one of the church parishioners asks if we would like a ride home. So we accept, and we end up in his locked basement looking for a way out.
Oh,
We climb through a very small window that is high above our heads. I stand on my friend's shoulders and I climb through. And I'm standing at ground level, so I reach in and I pull her through, and we run home. And her mom has the man arrested. At age 15, my mom has had enough of Andy's abuse. She splits up with him. Not long after, he kills himself. Now, as I got older, I got married, my mom moves in with us, and her presence brings up so much hurt. I resented her for putting me in all those situations. I let myself become bogged down by all the years of unfairness. I wake up angry. I go to bed angry. I lack confidence, and I'm full of shame that I just want to keep hidden. My anger is taking a toll on my marriage and my relationship with my kids. My work performance is in the toilet, and I feel like I can't do anything right. Is this all there is to life? Just to suffer and die? I see other people living happy lives. I know there's something I'm missing. I decide to find out how to be happy. And I love this quote. As a man thinketh in his heart, so he is.
absolutely. It is so powerful And I can feel the quivering in your voice as you still read that. It still takes you back to that place. But those experiences made you the woman that you are today. Those experiences have given you your testimony. Those
Amen.
experiences have allowed you to walk by faith and not by sight. Those experiences have been able to enable you to pour into others to seek this thing called happiness. So, brains, know that it is not the end destination, but it's the journey. If you
Yes.
have children that come to you and say, Mama, something's not right, somebody's touched me, somebody's hurt me, hell, you hurt my feelings. I'm ready to scratch your eyes out. Um, so it's important that we listen to our children,
Yeah.
that we look at the situation that we're in, that we find self-worth, that we find value in adversity, because time is still running. It's still going. No matter what we do, that time is still spinning. That granular sand is still dropping to the bottom. Where do you want to land? So we've done some heavy lifting. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want to cut you off. But I
You
want
know,
to ask.
you're right. Where you want to land. That's part of, that's the main key is having ignited vision. When you have the ignited vision, it will propel you. And as you're thinking about it, feel it. We're we're energy, we're spirit, in this human body. When we die, we don't just, our bodies will just turn into dust, but our spirit lives on.
Well,
So we,
for those who believe in
for
that,
those who believe,
for those who believe in that, and I'm not, I'm not knocking it. I'm with you. I don't think that I'm just going to just dissipate. I really believe that there is something else, bigger
I
and
believe that.
greater. But you got to get through this portal.
Yes.
You got to, you got to, you
My
got to,
coach tells me, got to live one life at a time.
yeah, you got to get through this, and that could possibly determine where we end up. Is there a heaven? Is there a hell? I don't know, but sometimes I turn on the TV and I'm I'm in hell or I'm in heaven. It's all in your perspective. It's all in how you perceive it. It's how you process it. What you allow yourself to intake. Again,
Mhm.
like the television, you can turn it off. Turn on some music. Go outside. Pet your dog. Get with your kids.
Right.
Have a conversation with yourself. Journal. All these things are very important. Do some meditation, some self-awareness, some reflection. And you are not that person anymore.
Right.
That is a part of who you are, but that is not who you always have to be. And I'm so proud of you, Tamara, that you have been able to make the transition, because sometimes people get trapped in that space. They don't move beyond it. They don't want to help anybody else. They suppress their anger. So you have elevated yourself to the next level. Well, let's ask you some fun questions because we're all serious right now. What's on your life list? What is there something that you still want to do that you haven't done thus far?
What do I still want? Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. Thank you. I've had this, I I guess I haven't defined it enough yet, but I've had this dream for about, I don't know, 2 years now, where I want to run this resort for families where they can come and bond together and create lifelong memories together. I want to have a coaching session for them. So, like, some for the kids, some for the parents, like how we can use our mental faculties to create our lives so that we can react the way that we really want to react rather than react how we've been trained to react. And parents, they want to do a good job. of course they want to do a good when they have their children, they love their kids. They want to do a good job, but they've got that cycle that sometimes is brought down. Like my cycle with, my grandma was in abusive relationships, my mom was in abusive relationships. And when it came to me, I was like, I am not going to be in an abusive relationship.
Mhm. You
So
gotta break that cycle, that
somebody's got to break
generational
that chain.
cycle.
And so I would love to have a space with teaching. I mean, I want to do it where I'm doing now and going out speaking to people. I mean, in my vision, I have like, I'm speaking to hundreds and hundreds of moms, and just really encouraging them to use positive language with their children and
Absolutely.
show them what their energy can do. And I also want to have this big resort where I have like these beautiful cabins where they come in and they get to cook together, learn how to cook together and work together and do team building things together, kayaks and clear bottom boats so they could see the fish. I mean, it's just
But,
I got this
well,
beautiful
you are
dream.
already, you know what I'm saying? You've already achieved it because I'm a manifester. And I
Yes.
could tell you some stories that would blow your wig back that I have really. This is one, for example. I was broke as a joke, and I wrote myself a check
Mhm.
for $5,000, and I put it in my purse. Kept it for about 6 months. One day, I got a letter from a company that I hadn't worked for in 20 years. They were sending me a check for $46,000.
Yes.
Girl, you could have picked me up with a poopy scooper.
Well, can I share one that I did that got happened just recently?
Yes.
So my husband had been only making so much, a
Mhm.
month. And we both sat down and we said, okay, we want this much a month. Do you know 2 months later, he got a raise and we got that much in that month.
See,
And it was over double what he was making.
see.
And I was like, and then,
So you have to have faith, you have to believe, but you have to have a clear vision.
mhm,
Got to have a
yes,
clear vision. What
yes.
if you were a flower in the garden, what flower would you choose to be?
Mm, I would have to say a hibiscus.
Someone else told me that the other day. They
Oh,
love
yeah.
the way that they bloom and how big they get and how the colors change.
hmm They're beautiful. And
Yeah.
they've also been, we went to Hawaii, which was another thing that I manifested
Mm.
a few years ago for our 30th wedding anniversary. I wanted to go and it didn't look like we were going to go. And I just held that vision. And sure enough, we got to go. And I was, oh, this is fantastic. So I went to a botanical garden there
Oh,
and they were talking about how some of the people from different parts of the world brought in the hibiscuses. I'm not sure if I'm saying that plurally correct or not, but but they brought them in, and when they did that, they bred them together and
okay.
made a hybrid.
Oh, wow.
So, and that was just beautiful. Of course, I had to take pictures of them all. I think my
Of
camera was full
course.
of them, but that's
But
my
you
favorite
talked
part.
about something too, and I don't want to conclude this interview without talking about you manifesting and your vision boards.
Mm,
Now, uh, I have a different approach. I do a couple different boards. I have a board of directors, people that on a whiteboard. I got snapshots and newspaper clippings or whatever of individuals that I admire, their wherewithal, their strategic planning, their bank account, uh, their communication skills, and I have a meeting with them every 2 weeks. I put this board out, I sit there, cross my legs, and I channel their energy. I have another vision board of things that I want to manifest in my life, things I want to change. I don't just have the vision board that is just all warm and fuzzy. Sometimes mine has obstacles. Sometimes I put a stop sign. Sometimes I put a back sign because you've got to adjust. Everything is not full throttle. And you have to believe in that. When you create your vision boards, what do you do?
well, when I create my vision boards, I actually go deep inside and I think, of the what is it that I really, really would love in my life? And I feel it. And when I do that, I go into, like cutouts, or I'll find pictures on the internet, or, and then put those on my vision board. And I also choose words. Words are so powerful. So I will choose words that are uplifting, kind, loving, flowy, things that I want in my daily life, like being loving, kind, creative, the being confident, being healthy, being balanced. Um, and one of the best things this year, my word is flow. I want to be in flow
Mm.
and just constantly giving and receiving love and kindness and love, and teaching people how to be in that, because when we're in that is where your happiness is, in that flow of love, giving love, receiving love. So many people don't know how to do that because of what they've been put through. So I teach them how they can do that, give love and receive love, and it's
Well, you
such
are
an
love.
amazing feeling.
You
You
are
are
love.
love, exactly, agape,
Yeah.
exactly.
And so I thank you so much for being here on the edge with me, Tamara. Please tell my brains how they can work with you. Pick up a copy of the book. And I don't know if you're doing online vision boards. They love that. But also, brains, did you hear what she said? She wants a retreat. She wants to be able to take you to a sacred space, to love on you, to communicate with your family, to allow you to pour into others. Help her manifest that dream. You know, she doesn't have to have the space. We could rent a Hilton or something. We'll work with her and share with her and let her know that everything that she's doing is not in vain. I thank you so much for being a teacher, an educator, working with the children as much as you possibly could, working through your own adversity, and being a great role model. Please tell my brains how to get in contact with you.
So I have a website, but I'm working on it, so it's in progress, and it's called sacredheart.care. SACREDHEART.care, CARE. And that just, I think that explains everything right there. I have this heart that is just full of love, and it's sacred for all of my people that I work with. And the care part, of course, goes with the heart. And I have an email. So my email is Coach Tam, COACHTAM 505 at gmail.com. And that's my quickest way. I have another one, but that one is not as, I'm not on that one as fluently.
Well, we want to be sure that we put all this information in the show notes as well as in the back of the interview. We want you to love, like, share, and subscribe, brains. I'm getting in your face. Love, like, share, and subscribe. Leave us a comment. You know, that's how we do what we do. That's how we get better at what we do. That's how we provide the information to you on the edge. Thank you so much, Tamara. Come back and see me, okay? Exactly.
Thank you.
Here's to you.
You're amazing.
Thank you. Bye, brains. Have a good day. We're loving on you.